Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
I like when it feels like someone has put a question mark in the teleprompter, like in the middle of that sentence for you. Here, as always, I'm not sure. I don't know, Tony. I don't know how you're doing, so I that means I don't know how I'm doing.
Well, the reason I had to ask is because I recorded a Buckeye Weekly with Chuck earlier in the day talking about David Gabriel George and that whole fallout. And so I initially said, here, as always, with Chuck. No,
No,
nope, here sometimes.
here is
And
most of the time with Tom.
yes, so welcome everybody to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. And it is time to talk about concerns. Now, not running back recruiting concerns. We've already done that. You can go find that. Jack and I had a long talk, almost 40 minutes of what went wrong. Should Ohio State have even done this? Shouldn't they have known better to compete against Tennessee in anything? And you can find that at youtube.com/ at Buckeye Insiders, or of course on the Buckeye Weekly feed and all of your audio platforms. So, Tom, my first concern with the quarterbacks is the quarterback run. And really that's not just, you know, the amount of it. It's, I think, the effectiveness of it, the when to do it of it, the pulling on reads. How often are they going to even call reads in terms of run reads rather than RPOs? How effective, I think, is another thing. They can call it all they want, but how effective is Julian Sayin on making the right read? Because we've seen some quarterbacks over the years who weren't very good at making the read. So one, making the read; two, picking up yards; three, the ball handling aspect of it, and not fumbling it, and then like scrambling. How effective is Julian Sayin on getting out of the pocket and upfield, that sort of thing? So I think he said that he's working on it. That's something that he's been focused on in the off season. This is one of those things where I think we need to see it before it's no longer a somewhat of a concern, as much of a concern as there can be for Julian Sayin.
Yeah, and I think this is a perfectly fair one. And this is one that Ryan Day addressed back in the spring and talked about the fact that, yeah, they really need to figure this piece of it out to a certain degree. And to me, that is suggestive of the fact that they are actively working to address it. And it's not like Julian Sayin can't run. You have seen Julian Sayin do it. There were moments last season where, even when he didn't pick up the first down, there was one at Washington where I think he was a half a yard short on a 4th and 8 or something like that. But you've seen him get out of the pocket and pick up decent yardage. He is willing to do it. I think it has been made clear to him that they're going to need him to do it, and that's going to be beneficial just to have the threat of it. You don't need to run the ball 15 times a game. You need to have the opponent think that you are willing to run the ball at any given moment, and that they have to respect that, the threat of the quarterback run, just to equalize the numbers. That's really all you're looking for. And then if you have a breakdown in pass protection, can you take, you know, there's a don't be able to evade the sack,
Mhm.
avoid the sack, get out of the pocket, and either extend the play with your legs or get out of the pocket and scramble and pick up that first down. If it's 3rd and 4, just get 4.5 yards. It doesn't need to be. You don't need to run for 60 yards. You just need to pick up whatever the down and distance is plus 6 inches. That's really all you need. And JT Barrett showed at least once that you didn't even need to pick up an extra 6 inches. You just an extra 1 inch is perfectly fine. And I think this is all stuff that is doable for him. But I'm with you. We've seen enough quarterbacks over the years where obviously their run is not their primary choice, not their first, the best part of their game. We've seen lots of quarterbacks over the years say, "Yeah, I know I got to do a little bit more of this," and it doesn't always translate to the field. So, yeah, this is a little bit of a. I kind of need to, this is a Missouri thing. Like, show me. This is Ohio is now the show me state.
It's interesting. I'm going back and looking at Will Howard's rushing yards at Ohio State, and he was a runner in his time at Kansas State. Had a couple of 100-yard rushing games in his career, and you look at what he did everybody I think remembers the 16 carries for 57 yards against Notre Dame when they were just going to kind of ride him a little bit. But like, against Indiana, five rushes for a loss of one, and there's some sacks in here. Uh, Penn State, we remember that was 12 for 24. That was one where he was active in running the ball. But Michigan 4 for 10, Oregon 5 for -3 in the Rose Bowl. It's like he could do it, but even here, it was like you just need a little bit here and there. Like he averaged over those 16 games or 50, whatever. Like it's not a lot. It's 12 to 15 yards a game, and some of those games are like Marshall 3 for -2, and then you've got 10 for 28 against Iowa. Just the ability to do it, I think, is what we've been talking about all along with him. The second one here is this is something that people have talked about. Now it's just like, you know, I almost want to go back. It's too late now to go back and like see how often, in terms of the middle of the field and his reticence to throw to the middle of the field. I don't know if that was hyper focus on other people's part. Like, why won't he do it? If it was a concern for the coaches, like, I don't know. And I know there are metrics out there, there are stats, there are heat maps and things in terms of how far or how often did he throw to the middle of the field. But the way people talk about it, I'll just okay, it's a concern. Can he get back to can he all of these talking about Brandon Innes being wide open down the middle of the field. Can he see that? And is it early enough in the progression for that to happen? I guess maybe the concern here is how active are they going to be over the middle of the field? Is it actually an issue? I don't know. Is that my fault? Maybe, but I'll go ahead and throw that out there.
This feels like one where, again, I have not done a real deep dive on this myself. This just feels like one of those things that turns into a narrative based
Mhm.
on some guy on Twitter says, look at this, look at Brandon Innes is running open down the middle of the field and Julian Sayin doesn't see him. And then everyone, finds the time 3 weeks earlier when he also missed him. And then it becomes, capital A, capital T, a thing. And, oh boy, this is a trend, that I have two data points and now this is a trend and it's a worrisome trend. And my guess is that if you put together a heat map of his passes, he threw over the middle quite a bit, and one of the reasons you didn't see as much of that was when you threw over the middle, you generally got what you got, and that was kind of it. And you'd throw over the middle, and you'd throw to Will Kesmerick, or you'd throw to Brandon Innes, or whoever, and they'd catch it, and they'd get what they got. But there wasn't a lot of yards after catch. There wasn't a lot of big plays. There wasn't a lot of you got what you got. You got what was there, and that was it. So you're not really incentivized to throw over the middle all that much. I don't think this is. I know there's the people who want to tell you about this want to tell you that well he's so short that he can't he's listed at 6 foot or 6'1" or whatever it is, and so he can't possibly be more than 5'10". Like I promise, I'm 6'2". I've stood next to him. He's every bit of 6'1.5" or 6'2". Like he is not that short. This is not a guy who can't see over the offensive line, so he just has to throw outside. I think this got overblown a little bit last year based on some cases where it was true. Yeah, there was a guy open in the middle of the field and the ball didn't go there. As you said, sometimes that's just the progression. Sometimes that's someone else was maybe open. Sometimes that's just, yeah, maybe sometimes you don't see the guy. You don't see everyone on every single play. But this one to me, I think if you did a real deep statistical dive or a real in-depth film breakdown, I just get the sense this is not one that would really bear out as this is as big of a concern as it's probably been presented as at times.
Right. And I think you could say the concern is also, is there somebody in the middle of
Mm-hmm.
the field?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's another aspect of it. Because last year, now Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith moved all around. They both played in the slot, but they were outside receivers. Being outside receivers, the ball is going to go outside to them because they are up here and the inside receivers were down here comparatively. That's not the way it's always been at Ohio State. We've talked about the slot receivers have always been very, very talented and productive. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Mecca, Buka, just the latest couple. And Garrett Wilson, gosh, don't want to forget that guy. So yeah, there's going to be more throws over the middle when the guy in the slot is like that is a first round pick. When they're not and the first round picks are outside, then I think that's going to show that the throws are going to go maybe outside more in that kind of way. But I'm with you. Like I think it's maybe a little overblown, but what isn't overblown is they need more effective receivers in the middle of the field, whether that's Tate or certainly not Tate, Jeremiah Smith or whomever. And the last one here, speaking of Jeremiah Smith, the last concern here is Julian Sayin maybe getting a little hyper focused on Jeremiah Smith, not unlike Kyle McCord and Marvin Harrison in 2023, where you're forcing it there and you're maybe sometimes ignoring what's going on all around you and some other people. So I think that's something that is a concern in terms of maybe either nobody else is getting open, so you just throw it to Jeremiah, or you don't trust anybody else. They haven't earned your trust. Just that sort of, I'm just going to throw it to Jeremiah and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and this is one where if it's one on one, I don't necessarily mind throw it to Jeremiah. That is going to be, if he's one on one, that is a battle that he's going to win well more than 50% of the time. And that's a guy you want to get him the ball a good number of times. When he was getting targeted 3 times a game, people were complaining that they weren't throwing him the ball enough. And when they were taking him off the field in the goal line, people were complaining they weren't, you know, why would you not put him out there? And,
Mhm.
that's something I've talked about a bunch. If you're in the goal line, split him out wide, and either one of two things happens. He's one on one and you throw the ball to him, or he's not one on one and they've got a second guy out there, and then you have a numbers advantage somewhere else. So either way, that feels like that works in your advantage. I think you've got to throw him the ball, and he should be your first read on a lot of plays because he's the guy who can do more than anyone else. And we'll see what the rest of the wide receiver unit looks like. I think this show has sort of inadvertently turned into the wide
Mhm.
receiver concerns, and that's probably fair. I certainly have more questions and concerns about the wide receivers than I do about the quarterback position. You're going to throw the ball to Jeremiah Smith probably a disproportionate amount of time compared to the other receivers because he's Jeremiah Smith and you don't have Carnell Tate on the other side right now. Maybe you have someone who turns into that at some point, but I don't know that you're going into the season thinking, yeah, you've got this is 1 and 1A like it was last year. It's you've got Jeremiah Smith and then you got a bunch of other guys, and we'll see how they develop because you've got guys who haven't done it at Ohio State. You've got guys who have done it at other places but haven't are just coming to Ohio State. You've got very talented true freshmen who haven't done it at the college level at all. They're all guys that could do it, but they're not proven yet. And so
Mhm.
I think you're going to default to the proven commodity. That just makes sense to me.
And speaking of being proven, I'll just throw this last one out there, and that's the depth situation in terms of the backup. Davian St. Clair has thrown the ball twice. I think both of those passes came against Grambling. Both were incomplete. So that inexperience as the backup quarterback, and we know he is the backup. Justin Martin is the number three. I don't foresee that changing, and that would be another story that
Mhm.
Ohio State fans don't want to deal with right now. But that's also going to be something to watch. But those are the three major concerns that I had for the Ohio State quarterbacks. If you guys out there have any others, or what do you think about those concerns that I had, go ahead and let us know in the YouTube comments. We'll check those out. If you're listening, 5-star rating and review is always appreciated. And if you want more of us and more of everything else, you can find us at BuckeyeInsiders.com right now. Got a vibrant community going on, lots of chatter, lots of talk, lots of, frankly, the 2027 recruiting thread on the David Gabriel George situation has gone from it's gone through the 7 stages of grief. There's been some anger in there, but it's all been like, I don't know, therapeutic. It's just been a discussion. Nobody's
It's been
been.
productive. It's been a
Yeah, yes.
productive conversation, and I said in the thread, like, I'm very proud of everyone here. Like, everyone sort of is understanding the big picture. It's not just they're dumb and they have screwed this all up. It's been people who understand the big picture and people who you enjoy talking football with. That's been, and that these are a lot of folks who we have seen at previous stops, and we know like these are smart people who know ball and understand sort of the big picture. And yeah, it is when we say it is a really fun and active community, we mean it. I think it is a community. if you want to throw stuff against the wall and throw the TV remote, like maybe it's not for you. But if you're someone who enjoys talking football with people who are probably a lot of fun to talk football with and who are reasonable, rational adults on the internet, believe it or not, in the year of our Lord 2026, we would love to see you at BuckeyeInsiders.com.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. That will do it from here. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.